we are here in Downtown Mesa. Would you guys go ahead and introduce yourself and where we are right now?
I am Orvid Cutler.
I'm Maria Cutler.
And we're at Que Chevere restaurant in Downtown Mesa.
And how do you pronounce it? Say that again.
Que Chevere.
Que Chevere? Okay, cool. And so what exactly is this restaurant?
We are a Venezuelan restaurant.
And what kind of food is Venezuelan? Because, you know, there's a lot of Mexican food in Arizona all over the place. It seems like every corner. But I've not had Venezuelan food myself before. How would you describe it?
Caribbean style. A lot of plantains.
Okay.
Arepas are their probably main dish. It'd be like a tortilla to a Mexican.
And what exactly is that?
It's corn masa. And so they cook it a bunch of different ways, but like for here, we do it on a flat top. So it's like a cornbread.
Okay. So it's more of a bready consistency than like a tortilla is obviously real nice and thin. And so I figure you're both Venezuelan yourself. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Are you Arizona natives or not so much?
I am not Venezuelan.
You're not Venezuelan. Okay. So you are the Venezuelan.
Yes,
okay.
I am.
Okay. So were you a native of Arizona or no?
No. I was born and raised in Venezuela.
Okay.
And then I came when I was 16 years old.
Okay. And so Venezuela is not really an easy place to live as far as I understand it. I've never been before. How was it like for you growing up there?
It was awesome.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
That's not exactly what I expected. What did you like about living there?
The culture, the family, everything comes together. Just everything. Like I said, like for the most part, it's like the culture. Just not sure.
Well, because on the news when you see it, they act like you go there and it's the most dangerous place in the world. That's kind of the articles you see written about it all the time. That's not what your experience was like. It's a little bit more of a close-knit community, it sounds like.
Correct. For the most part, everything changed like 20 years ago.
Okay.
My dad actually got to the U.S. about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So he used to live over there. So he actually saw it and experienced it, that it is, for the most part, what the news are actually.
Sure. And so I'm not 100% familiar with the history of Venezuela, but were you in America before things started to take a turn for the more dangerous, if you will?
That's when it actually started going.
Okay.
And that was one of the reasons that I came as an exchange student.
Okay.
And then I started going to Mesa Community College, and things turned to
And
the
what
worst.
is that transition like, coming to America and having that whole experience of kind of beginning to become a citizen, I guess?
It was hard, but it was definitely worth it. A lot of adjustments on it, like from transportation to like not being close to family to things that they're not as easy as when a U.S. citizen has.
Sure. And so what is the biggest shock to you when you come to America? Is it the culture here, or is it more just being away from your family?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Sure.
The culture, just because one of the things is like most people are like, oh, kids turn 18 and they just leave their house. I think more as a Hispanic, not just Venezuelans, but Hispanics tend to stay close.
Sure.
Until they leave home.
Okay.
My parents bought me luggage for my 18th birthday.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your upbringing and where you're from.
Idaho.
Idaho, really? Okay. And so that seems like a big cultural difference from Arizona as well. What was it like for you growing up, and when did you come to Arizona? Was it at 18?
No, actually, I came here when I was 9.
Okay.
So my dad moved because of jobs. And it's way Arizona. I mean, is agricultural, but it has a city where there's Boise, which is a city, but it still smells like it feels like a small town. But the rest of Idaho is all farming community. So,
well, and so being in Mesa right now, we're not quite in, you know, as far east as you have to go to get into the real farm towns of like Gilbert, where you're driving past giant fields and whatnot. And, you know, we're located, this is downtown Mesa.
Yeah.
So
Mesa is the largest suburb in the nation.
Well, and this area in particular is very walkable. There's lots of businesses, and it's having kind of a major resurgence, it seems like, in the past couple of years, from Oro Brewing, which we'll talk about in kind of your guys' trajectory of this restaurant. But you've also got Cider Core, you've got Worth Takeaway, you've got lots of different spots around here. When you guys came to Arizona, I know you said you went to Mesa Community College. Were you in this area, Orvid, when you moved to Arizona?
I grew up in Chandler, graduated from Chandler High, and then went to college at MCC. It's actually where I met her.
Okay. And so around that time, what are you guys working on? Are you going to school for like restaurants and hospitality, or were you on a different trajectory at that point?
Completely different. I was going to Mesa Community College as a web designer.
Okay.
So I didn't have anything to do with restaurants.
She did do our website.
Oh, nice, nice. Did you like doing that work or not so much?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And so did you go into doing that for a couple of years? Or I know you guys have the food truck. We'll dig into that a little bit. What was it like after college for the both of you?
Well, she graduated. I didn't.
Okay.
I think I just went for the fun.
I went to ASU and made it about a semester and a half and
Yeah.
left there and kind of started doing my own thing. But you graduated with a degree in web design. Did you start doing that for a living?
No. I actually, I started working at Safeway, and then from Safeway, a friend of mine asked me to go work at GoDaddy.
Okay.
And which it had something to do with it, but most of it was sales.
Okay.
But that was my intent. It was actually to go create websites with GoDaddy.
And so what were you doing while you were with GoDaddy? Because you said sales, but you guys were acting like you're very shy before. That seems like kind of a battle to play personally, right? Doing sales, being a little bit shy.
Yeah. I actually
crushed it.
Yeah?
She crushed it at GoDaddy.
Did you do you just get in a zone and you almost like become like a different person and you knock out the phone calls and then
She's
move on?
competitive.
Okay.
Super competitive. So I think for her, like, it took her to a job where they're like, oh, you're on a team, but the best person on your team wins this.
Sure.
And Maria's the type like, I want that. And she'll go for it and do whatever she has to make sure she wins.
Well, to look at where you guys are now, that's something to have as a personality trait that is huge as a business owner. Not that you're necessarily competing with every spot down here, but if you look at, the problem of getting people in your doors, you're competing to get people in your doors in a sense. So that drive, personally, I'm sure, has been huge for you guys in opening up this place. Would you say so?
Yeah.
So then at what point does this brand, this restaurant, I guess it started out as a food truck, at what point does that become a thing for you two?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, even the whole thing started was about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. He wanted to actually start a restaurant.
Okay.
Not a food truck, a restaurant. And I was like, no, that's a lot of work, like everyone knows.
That's not what she said.
Had you worked in restaurants before?
No.
She said we didn't have the money. That's
Okay.
what she said.
No, it was a lot of work. And I can
Which was
still,
true. We didn't have the money.
Yeah,
I can
sure.
still stand by that is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Just the little that I worked at Safeway, and I was in the deli department, and then
Sure.
from there I went to the Starbucks. I knew that it was a lot of work. So that was without doing any administration, anything that it had to do with products. And
Just the labor of it itself.
Yeah.
Not dealing with food going bad and things like that.
Correct.
Sure. Okay.
But neither one of us had any background on that restaurant industry.
Were you good home cooks though?
Yeah, actually, he's really good. But
Okay.
yes, when we were at home, I would start making him arepas. And then at some point, he liked it a lot, and that's when he wanted to do the restaurant. And I was like, no. And there was not really a restaurant in Arizona. There was one that actually closed down.
Okay.
And then about 6 years ago. Yeah. 6 years ago, he was like, I'm going to go get a food truck. And I'm like, no, you're not.
You thought you had won that battle already and that he moved on and he comes to you with that.
Yeah.
What is that like on your side, making that decision, just going, did it just hit you one day, or was it a slow build?
It was a slow build. I watched that movie Chef.
Okay, yeah.
And that, seriously, people say they think the same thing. Like, you watch that and you're just like, I could do that. And I had been asking her for years before, 10 years, start a restaurant. And she was like, no. And the reason why is because the food is so different. You know what I mean? And it's so good. And I believe in it a lot, like more than anything.
Had you had Venezuelan food before meeting her?
No. I actually, for a year, wouldn't even eat it. She mashed it up with tuna, and I hate tuna.
Oh,
and so
really?
I thought what she was eating, every time she says, do you want an arepa? I thought arepa had tuna with it. I was like, no. I was like, I don't want it. I was like, and then one day, I tell everyone, I remember my first arepa. Like, she made me a ham and cheese arepa.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
I was sitting there watching TV, and she came and just gave it to me on a plate. And I was like, what's this? She's like, arepa. I was like, I thought it had tuna. She's like, no, there's no tuna. You can put whatever you want in it. I ate it. After that, fell in love. Even I have a 25-year-old son.
You fell in love with her again when you had the arepa,
yeah. I have a 25-year-old son that, like, he would beg me. He was like, hey, tell her to make those chicken arepas for us.
Oh, yeah?
Like, you know, because we'd spend time on the weekends, and he would be like, man, just tell her to come and make those chicken arepas. Like, he loved them. To the point, I think one of his birthdays, he had you make pepitos. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like.
What is that?
It's a Venezuelan sandwich that has steak, pork, chicken, bacon, Parmesan cheese. Yeah.
Are you going to be able to make some food after this? Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep listening to delicious things like that.
I was actually thinking about it. I want to make you the stuffed empanada, they call it, and I'm gonna have her say it because I told her we have to call it the stuffed empanada because most of the stuff to pronounce on our menu is so hard. Operada?
Empanada operada.
Yeah.
Empanada operada?
Yeah.
No, I feel like I got that a little bit wrong. We'll circle back to that one.
It's phenomenal, trust me.
And what is that one?
It's basically our empanada and then just stuffed with stuff. Instead of, like, we did a taco, they did a taco crawl.
Okay.
And they had a bunch of people down here competing on best taco. I told them I'm not going to do a taco. I was like, this is what I'll do. Venezuelans do this empanada operada.
Okay.
And we sold 215 tickets compared to the next closest one was like 125 tickets.
Was everyone in there looking at you like you guys were cheaters because you broke the rules a little bit?
No, I mean, they knew it looks like a taco.
Okay.
But that was our thing because I didn't want to, like, one thing we've done is stay very true to Venezuelan, like, food. Like, we don't, when we started the food truck, people told us, oh, you're not going to make it unless you Americanize it or you make a taco. Like, people told us that we had to do that to survive. So we made a point not to change anything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and that's on a consumer standpoint. You know, I understand that Americanized things are a little bit more approachable. Obviously, that's why you add that side to it. But for people that like trying craft food and beverage, you like the story behind it. You like to know that it is done traditionally and done authentically. And so I figure, you know, it seems like it, considering the way you're describing it, people have really latched onto that since you guys have been open.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm curious, you know, you obviously didn't grow up with Venezuelan food unless someone was sneaking it to you and you weren't aware of it. You moved here when you were 16 years old. So did you guys have to kind of re-educate yourself as to what, you know, obviously you had to do some educating to yourself, but for you, are these foods that you grew up with and kind of continued to make them once you moved to America, or was it kind of revisiting your childhood in a sense?
It's actually food that I grew up with, and actually even all these recipes are coming from my mom and my grandma.
Oh, wow.
They're the one that actually, my mom used to work with them in the food truck as I was working for the most part full time, and she would always make sure that it tasted just right every time that it was made.
So they're not in Venezuela, they're in Arizona now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And so how is that for you guys? I mean, that sounds like it would be fun in a sense. Obviously, it's work, but getting to spend time with your family and making this delicious food and, you know, doing something with your hands and then having people taste it and their eyes are just like, wow, that's incredible. How is that experience for you guys as you're preparing to launch the food truck?
It's amazing. So that was one of the things, like, I remember, like, me and her mom were on the food truck. I'm trying to think of the place. They make guitars. They're in Scottsdale. Fender. We were at Fender. And this was probably our first month or two out. And a lady came up crying. Like,
really?
I'm
Wow.
dead serious on everything, saying it was the best thing she ever tasted. It was the Reina Pepiada. And I just remember her saying, like, that's how amazing this tastes to me. And like for me, I believed in it that much. Like that's how much it's changed my life. So I wanted like the food truck to do well. That's why I was all about it. And I just remember because like every time like if her mom's with us, I'm like, oh, this is a lady who's created this. Like this is why we're doing it. You know.
And so, is there a point where you guys, you know, maybe it's when the food truck was finally done and you pick it up for the first day. Is there a point that things really started to go from the learning and preparation phase to really launching it as a food truck, visiting all these places? Maybe it was the moment you just described.
Oh man, I think the learning point was when we did the friends and family. I had like an hour and a half wait. Like,
oh, really? Wow.
And it wasn't because, I mean, there were a lot of people there, but it was because we did not know anything about the food industry and how to get food out quickly. And Venezuelan food is not a fast food.
Okay.
Like, just arepas themselves, like, I don't know, what, 10 to 20 minutes, you know? You got to cook them on both sides. Just that, like, so it's this learning experience on how to make everything.
Which may not sound to someone who hasn't owned a restaurant before. Oh, 20 minutes, you know, I cook things that take an hour long at home. But when you're running a business, time is everything.
50 people are ordering.
Especially in a tiny little food truck, and you've only got limited room, limited resources. So once you have those moments where you're like, oh God, what did we get into? Are you feeling, you know, a little bit like, are you feeling like what did we get into? Or was it the trust in the food and the passion that you guys have that really kind of fueled you moving forward?
Man, it was just, I think we're problem solvers.
Okay.
So like every time we've had an issue, it's like we go home, we sit down and we're like, all right, like how are we going to fix it? It's not like, oh, we can't do it. It's, all right, what changes do we make to make sure that it's the same product, but we can get it done faster, or whatever the situation is. Like, how can we solve the problem?
And then once you're starting to solve these problems and get a more greater view of what it takes to run a restaurant or a food truck, are you guys really starting to push more and more? Are you doing visits all the time, or is it kind of a slow ease into getting the ball rolling?
I don't know. Like, I think it seemed like we were doing a lot when we first started. I think now that we've done so much that we look back and we're like, oh, we could have handled more if we would have known. If you know the business and how to do things.
What was your guys' schedule like? Like, where were you setting up? How often?
In the beginning?
Yeah.
3-4 times a week?
Yeah. I was the one doing the scheduling, so it had to be at least 4 times a week.
Okay.
Which made it to be at least having 20 events a month. So whether it was 1 week it was 6, 1 week it was 4, but it had to be 20 events a month.
And that's just setting up. That's not even talking about the preparation side of it, that I assume with food that takes longer, there's a big part of preparation. So is this something when you guys are handling the scheduling, was that, you know, I figure it was a major learning experience, but did it kind of come naturally that you were finding places that were interested in having you and people were really receptive to the food originally?
I think the biggest thing, so for the first 2 years, she wasn't on the food truck. When she finally left GoDaddy and came, and then she was out there with me, because like she said, she did all the scheduling. She saw where we did best at, and so she basically became almost normal, because it was corporate lunches is where a lot of the money for food trucks is. Our scheduling just got better, but we went from like 4 times a week to being like 5 to 6 at times too.
Wow.
Also.
And so are you working full time as you're doing the 4 times a week visits?
No, she wasn't. She wasn't on the food truck when she was working full time. She was occasionally, but it would be like her mom or.
But like when you guys were first starting out, you were still working full time at GoDaddy as you're launching things. And so, on a personal level, it's difficult to have a full time job and launch a business. And then for a lot of people, it's different. It's difficult to work with their spouse. How was that for you guys? Not to get too deep into your personal life, but was that a change of pace for you, kind of figuring out how to work alongside each other?
Best thing ever.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. But for the most part, because we were not together, besides when we were doing the prep, most of the time it was like, okay, well, how do you feel about the event? Since I wasn't there, so I had to learn the things that we needed to change in the food truck, or let's say, hey, rather than scheduling 5 times a week, do it only 4 times, because we still have to do prep. So we learned as we went through it. Obviously, it wasn't easy some of the times.
Sure.
But for the most part,
slept on the couch.
for the most part, if there was something that I didn't understand, or like I thought that I doubted, like he has always, like, he's truly, for the most part, that problem solver.
Okay.
Like he has always solved, hey, let's just do this way.
And so at a certain point, you decide to leave your full-time job with GoDaddy, and now you're really all in at that point. How are things like at that point? Are you doing, you mentioned like 5-6 times a week. Is it mostly corporate lunches still, or are you getting more into, visiting like craft breweries and stuff like that and setting up?
We started off doing tap room. Like, that's always been a thing. Like, Cider Corp's been major.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've had big nights there. Tipsy Cactus.
Sure.
Major. Like, especially in our beginning. It's like we were born the day Tipsy Cactus was born, so we were learning together. Like, shout out to Sean if he listens. But like, that's where we got our start, So we always did those, and we love those. But just for the majority, like the ones that you're gonna do well, like there are certain places that we had set up during our lunches
Mm-hmm.
that we just knew, like if we needed an extra person, if it was a little lighter and it just us two, like that was a thing that became very, I don't know, it was the same thing, like very repetitive. Like, so we knew the places for lunch stops that we were going to do well at. And so we were just hitting those. And then COVID hit, and that changed everything. And then there was no more corporate lunches.
And so when COVID begins to unfold, you guys didn't have this restaurant spot yet, correct? Mm-hmm. So you're just a food truck, and now, not to say just a food truck, but at that point you had been only operating as a food truck, and then COVID hits and kind of changes everything, like you're saying, no more corporate lunches and whatnot. What are you guys doing at that point? Are you scratching your heads and just wondering what's the move forward as the problem solver, the resident problem solver of the group?
Well, then, so...
well, we had already signed the lease over here.
Yeah, we knew we were opening this.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, we actually did a lot of stuff with Chupacabra. Like, every Saturday they let us pull up there because they were doing to-goes.
Sure.
So we were doing to-goes.
Yeah. And then, so we knew we were doing this. We did a few weekends where we parked right in the back of the restaurant, just to kind of let people know where we were at, and we did kind of a drive-through service.
Okay.
Yeah, it changed, but tap rooms that we're doing to-goes and stuff like that is where we're going.
And so you're a resident of, the general area, if you will. And so we were talking about how you would frequent some of the places around this area, like Chupacabra and things like that. So is that why you guys wanted to pick this area to set up shop, was because you lived around here and you thought it'd be a good spot to service the community, or did it just work out nicely that it was affordable and so on?
No, this is where we wanted. I had always said that this is the only place I'd do a business.
Really?
Like a restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah.
And why is that?
I love Mesa.
Okay.
It's a weird thing, man. I've always loved Mesa. Like, it's always felt like home. I don't even live in Mesa now. Like, I live in Gilbert, but this feels like home.
And so is that partially because of the restaurants you were frequenting, or just the community in general?
Community.
Is there a certain thing about it?
Definitely the community.
And so for anyone who's not been in this area, there are some heavy hitters over here. Chupacabra is a wonderful tap room, just, probably a minute-long walk from here, if even that. And it's in this beautiful brick building. Huge supporters of local craft beer. You've got Oro Brewing Company, which brews fantastic beer. They're just a couple doors down on whatever direction it is, right? And then you got Cider Core. You got the 12 West spot that just opened up. And so this downtown community is really starting to turn not only into, more and more of a thriving community, but a very locally focused community. And I figure the supporters of you guys and the other businesses are seeking out that kind of company to go and support. Would you say so?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we got very lucky. Like, I didn't know, like, I knew 12 West was coming down, but I didn't know, like, how much, just having Tacos Chivas down here is amazing,
How far is that from here?
Right across the street.
Oh, okay. Nice. And were they here before you guys?
After.
How long after that you guys opened did they open up?
6 months.
I don't even think 6 months, maybe 3 after we opened.
And I was saying before, it's whether you think about it as competition or not, ultimately you just want people in your doors. And so it's interesting to hear you say that Tacos Chihuas is beneficial for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
How would you describe that? Like, what makes it beneficial for you? Is it just more foot traffic?
That people come down here for that. They'll see us. They'll come over. Like I said, we're all like family down here. So how many people have came in my door and been like, I was at Tacos Chihuas having lunch. They told me I need to come try you.
Really? Wow.
And so that Mondo, the owner, has been in here multiple times, and I tell him every time, he's like, I'll have an issue that I'm dealing with, and he's very blunt, but he's the type of person, he's like, you're not working hard enough. You need to push yourself. And so, like, just those things, like I say, the community down here is like family.
So it's not even, just the fact that they're over there and kind of are drawing people in, but they're also coming in and building a personal relationship with you guys, pushing you to really build this wonderful community of local food and beverage, but so much more than that, because food and beverage is kind of what you gather around, right? But the community runs deeper than that.
Yeah.
You're a craft beer fan as well, correct?
Love it, yeah.
And so not only craft beer in general, but local places. You said you frequented Oro. What do you think it is about local food and beverage that is really surging at the moment? I think COVID had a lot to do with it because people realize how important it is. But is there anything else that you would pinpoint as why people love local food and beverage so much? Because
I think they get to know the owners. To walk into a business and you know the people that actually own it and they care about it. There's so many big places out there that you'll walk in, and nobody knows anybody.
Sure.
You go to one business, be like, oh, I was just over there. You know anyone? They're like, no, I don't know anyone over there. And they're across the street. Down here, we're truly all like family. Like, we're all looking out for each other. We all want the best. Like, we love the growth that's happening.
Well, and you kind of need local businesses to be able to supply the kind of products that you guys are, right? Chili's isn't going to start serving arepas on, Tuesday special or something like that. So do you have a lot of Venezuelan people or just Hispanic people that come in and are familiar with the food and say, it's like I used to have when my grandmother made it? Or is it a pretty wide-ranging group of people that come in?
It's a wide range, but I think just in general, we have a great following. Like, I think we did things right on the food truck, so especially the Venezuelan community. Even just South American community in general. We get Dominicans, Colombians that come in and they support us. Like I said, Sundays, we're supposed to be dead for us down here. And she told me, she's like, no, we have to stay open on Sunday because that's a South American thing. Like, they go to eat on Sundays, and we are packed on Sundays.
And so, Maria, as you open up the restaurant, is there, I'm sure there is another big learning curve for operating a larger place, serving more people, a little bit more overhead. Are there a lot of moments like, we've got to stay open Sundays that were pivotal little changes that you guys made that really locked in what you guys are doing here? She
just wanted to make sure there was a dance floor.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
She goes, we walked in the first day. I told you Chuck from Oro is the one who got us this place. Like, we wouldn't be here without him. Thank you, Chuck. Dave also, man. But she walks in and we sat down and we looked at it. It did not look like this at all.
Okay.
It was an ice cream shop. It looked more like a Subway, orange walls.
Okay.
But her first thing, she goes, where are we going to dance? And I was like, and I was like, it's a restaurant. She's like, we're Latino. We're going to dance. And I was like, but then we open up during COVID. There is no dancing.
Sure. So has the dancing begun yet or not so much?
No.
We've been working on getting the music for it. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Well, and you have this wonderful little patio out front, which seems like Downtown Mesa is getting more of those little things that pop up. But when you talk about attracting people as they're walking along, this is Main Street right here, correct?
Correct.
So as you're walking along Main Street and you see just a plate of delicious food, you're like, man, I got to try that sometime. So has the patio, did you guys open up with the patio or was that an addition later on?
We built it, yeah.
Okay. And so I assume now that the weather is getting nicer out, you guys are pretty excited for that to function a little bit more than in those crazy summer months. It seems like the weather broke pretty quickly this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice. So now that you guys have been open for about a year and a half, you said, correct? What is in the plans? Obviously dance nights and stuff like that, but is there anything else, or are you just kind of continuing down the same path that you've been on so far?
Yeah, we're winging it still. It's still all new.
Yeah.
Well,
trust me, I come up with crazy ideas every day, and she gets mad at me. So I gotta
distill them down a little bit. Yeah. Well, that's the sign of a good partnership as well, is when you have someone that can have the ideas, and then the other person that can kind of bring it back. And that's on a strategic side of running a business. That's huge, to be able to have a different perspective, so you can really find the best result. So if you would, talk me through a few more of your guys' most popular menu items and what someone might expect if they come in here for a lunch or a dinner.
So very authentic. My personal favorite, I say this all the time, she laughs at me, the patacon, hands down. People come in all the time, they're like, what's your favorite thing? The patacon. And so much that they're going to do an article in the Phoenix magazine. Mm-hmm. So
describe that to me.
Patacon, so it's plantain. So we use the plantain at different parts of its life. Mm-hmm. So when it's super green, it's almost like a very starchy, not sweet at all. We take that and we fry it, and it softens it up, and then cut it in two, and then we smash it into like a disc, and then we throw it back in the fryer, fry it a little more, and then use it basically as a sandwich, top and bottom.
Oh, really?
Shredded beef, shredded chicken, cheese, lettuce, salsa rosado, and cilantro sauce on it. And it's like a sandwich. I mean, you can eat it like a tostada or a sandwich, however you want to eat it.
Is it crunchy like a tostada is? Okay.
Yeah. And so to me, it's phenomenal. We do a little seasoning on it, which I think helps. But just that whole, all of that together, like just everything together is so perfect to me.
The texture alone sounds absolutely incredible. Yeah. Talk me through a few more of your items, if you would.
So the arepas, that's like our cornbread. We slice those open like a pita, stuff them. We have shredded beef, shredded chicken. My favorite is the reina pepiada. It's our chicken tossed in a cilantro mayo with avocado. That's phenomenal. We have black bean and avocado, black bean and cheese. What else? Empanadas. There's stuff that's not on the menu that I want to add, but we can't because she started cooking.
Okay, yeah. So are you handling most of the cooking, or is that that must be hard work, especially because it's not something that you went to school for necessarily or had a restaurant background? What is that like, being tucked in the back of a kitchen, especially in the hotter months? I bet that's a little bit borderline painful because it's so hot back there, huh?
I guess it's not as bad as the food truck. The food truck actually was very hot in such a small space. Yeah. At least over here has the overflow to go around. Actually, I love cooking. The main thing is I never have time. Like sometimes, like when we're closed on a Monday, he goes, "What are you gonna go do at the restaurant?" I'm like, "Well, we have to do prep. We have the food truck going out this week. We have the restaurant that still has to supply product. We have to do this." And I was like, so it's a lot. It's just I wish that we can do some kind of specials on that restaurant. It's just time-wise. Yeah. Time-wise. And I can't allow myself yet to bring it and give it to our employees yet. Just because we had such a great compliment from our customers that even though our employees end up assembling this product, I'm the one who actually cooks them. So I don't want that to change. I'm sure at some point there has to be some.
Yeah.
There has to be a little bit like let it go. So.
Well, and that's one of the difficult parts of being a business owner, especially if you didn't grow up in commercial kitchens and stuff like that, is hitting a point where you're comfortable to hand it off to someone else to have them make it. And I think that's something that will be exciting once you guys make that happen, because it will kind of open the doors of possibility for you guys to be doing, not that you're not doing the high level side of it, obviously you have to be able to run the business, but when you start to get developing some specials, like what do you have an idea in your mind of something that you would like to introduce as a special that you haven't been able to yet?
Well, one of them is that pastelitos. It's like a pastry dough. like little circles, and you can do either cheese or you can do chicken, you can do beef, you can do anything on them. But that's one thing that I grew up with, like when I was going to school in Venezuela, is that you ate that for breakfast, either that or empanadas. Those were the main big things that you had. So I wanted to be able to provide that at least just on Sundays, especially because we do brunch. So do those on Sunday also.
Awesome.
That's one of them. But we got the cachitos.
Yeah, that one.
The cachitos.
There's one she does. It's like it's almost like a croissant, but it has ham in it.
Huh.
It's amazing. We did them on a food truck, and I remember the first time we took them, because we have an oven on the food truck, and it takes 20 minutes to cook them. So she would prep them to where all she had to do was bake them when we got there. 15 minutes, they were all gone. Like people knew we were making them, and they were there. And I thought, oh, people buy like one at a time. It was families. They're like, I'll take 10.
And then people are like, well, why didn't you make more of them? And you're like, because it takes an extremely long time to make all of them.
And there's only so much room on the food truck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Are there any other items like that you guys remember just not necessarily expecting them to skyrocket and then you sell out of them like right away?
Oh, man, we used to do the pepitos before we had them on the menu here on the food truck. And we would do them at Cider Corp. It's the only place I think we ever did them. But like about every 6 months while we had the food truck, we'd do a pepito night and just do that sandwich. And it was always crazy. Like, I mean, they would just go. I'd have a guy, and became a friend of ours. He would show up with a ton of friends, and he'd be like the first order, like, I'll take 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're big sandwiches. Like, it's enough for 2 people. And I just would look at my wife and I'd be like, hey, they just ordered 10, like right off the gate. So we're already backed up.
Yeah. And you're just back there like, oh, God, what have I gotten into? So what is that like when you have a place packed out, and obviously you're stressed because you want to be getting food out to people so they don't start getting a little bit hangry, as I've probably done once or twice before. How do you keep a level head and start crushing stuff out back there when you're just swamped with food orders?
I don't know. I think as of right now, it's way different than when we started. Like he had said, when we had the friends and family, they were like, this is not going to happen at a corporate lunch. So, like, for an example, back to the pepito, is like the first time, obviously, people waited. Even though they were inside a corpse, whether they're having a drink or so, we made changes on that. So we knew that, like, okay, well, we need to come prep on this side. So make it, like, a lot faster, and then having more people if it needed to do different stations for everyone. So that made it to cut down, like, the cooking.
Yeah.
So who was doing the cooking in the food truck? Because you weren't in the food truck at that point, correct?
Well, with the food truck, you had a commissary, which is a commercial kitchen. So it had to be cooked at the commercial kitchen. So on the weekends when I was out, he would come with me to that commercial kitchen. We prep it over there, and then we take it to the food truck.
And then on the food truck, who was finishing it off in the oven? Or
it was me or whoever I had working with me.
And so were you typically just by yourself? Or were you with another person?
No, I had for the most part, her mom was with us for the beginning.
Okay.
And then my friend Dario, he was with us.
What is it like working with her mother-in-law?
It's great.
Or with your mother-in-law, rather.
Trying to get me killed?
No, I'm just. I guess that wasn't. I wasn't setting you up for success with that question. But
hey, she no longer works with the food truck.
Okay, we'll leave that one where it is. So what's in your guys' plans for the next little bit? Just keep churning out arepas and other things here. Or, anything else you want to share with people that might be interested in coming giving you guys a visit?
I know she's gonna think I'm crazy, and I'm putting this out there in the atmosphere. So we have a hard time getting, or we actually can't get Venezuelan beer here.
Okay.
Like, the licensing's not in Arizona, whatever it is, like, we can't get it. It's a Pilsner style beer. It's really good. I've really been pushing, and I've told her this. I was like, this is the things that she rolls her eyes and gets mad at me for. Chris over at Chupacabra has already, like, said he'll brew it for me if I get the system. So in my crazy head, if I can fit like a 3-barrel or something small in the back, I'm going to brew Venezuelan beer.
Have you brewed beer before?
No, but Chris has.
Okay.
He used to work for Wilderness,
Okay.
So he's already looked up recipes, like all that type of stuff. It's on the back burner just because right now we're running into issues with just Venezuelan products in general.
Sure.
So we have to make sure that we have those, and I told her once we're set and we're good with those, then I'm going to go back into my dreaming of having a small little craft Venezuelan beer.
Have you approached any other breweries in the meantime to see if you can do like a collab beer about it?
I have. So the problem is, a lot of the people that can do it, 12 West, he's already been like, I can do it. I got to make this amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I worry that if it doesn't sell,
sure,
then I have all this beer.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I can buy a small system, test it out, figure it out,
mm-hmm.
find the recipe that actually fits and actually, because my whole thing is, it's not about, to me, truly, Venezuelans have to love it.
Mm-hmm.
If Venezuelans don't love it, then it's not going to be
mm-hmm.
a part of us.
Sure.
So, like, I would do batches and have the Venezuelan friends that I've made come in, and until they tell me, and they're blunt. They don't, like, they are very blunt.
Sure.
Like, I've told her when we first started, they'd be like, why are you here? And I'd be like, because my wife's Venezuelan. They're like, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Because when they come up and they met me, and I didn't speak Spanish, and I wasn't from Venezuela, man, they were not happy. But I would explain to them my wife's Venezuelan.
You won them over eventually.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I know if I try and create something, I can invite them in, and they'll tell me.
Mm-hmm.
We're near it, close, this is it, And so that's my plan for the future.
Well, and it sounds like that's the kind of customer base that you guys want, right? Someone that's going to tell you whether they like it or not sugarcoat it, and then you can make the adjustments you need, and now they're fervent fans. They're going to be coming around all the time to get something that you really can't find anywhere else at this point in time.
Yeah, and then I feel like we're in the right area to do a craft Venezuelan beer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is the perfect spot for it.
Sure.
Probably wouldn't work anywhere else, but Downtown Mesa now is going to be like the mecca for craft beer.
Yeah, it really is getting to that point because, it's not only craft beer either. Like Cider Core is, if you've not been to Cider Core, it is like a once-in-a-lifetime place to visit unless you live around there and you can visit it more than once. But the flavors that they create, the story that they have, it really is something that I've never witnessed, and I've been to a lot of different places doing the beer book and doing a Taste of AZ magazine. And they're just great people as well. Like you mentioned, they were huge in helping you guys, giving you a spot to set up. So shout out to Cider Core, Chupacabra, Oro. Shout out to you guys as well. For
Desert
anyone,
Eagle, can't forget those
Desert
guys.
Eagle, yeah.
I love them.
Well, that reminds me. You've got a sign in the back that points in the different directions of all the things that are around here. Oro's on the list, Cider Core, and it has the distance to them. Well, I believe it says Desert Eagle is like 75 or 79 feet, right?
Yeah.
And so that, that sign, it seems like such a simple thing, but when I saw that, I'm like, that is a testament to how much you guys are supporting local. Because like you said, Tacos Chihuahua sending people. You're sending people elsewhere as well.
It was on the front of the business. The city told me that I couldn't have it up.
Really? Why is that?
Because it's on their artwork. It was on out front. There's this metal. It's a piece of metal, and I just hung it on that. And they're like, no, that's our artwork. You can't put it over our artwork. That's why it moved to the back over there.
Okay, yeah. Well, for anyone listening, you got to come visit this spot. It's a wonderful spot in and of itself, but there's so much more going on here in Downtown Mesa. Wonderful story, new-ish local business, and man, I'm excited to try some of your guys' food. You hooked me up with a beer right when we sat down, so that's speaking my language already. If you've got food to match the delicious beer, then I'm going to be a very happy man.
I got you.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.